The grand house stood tall, its elegant walls hiding the cold emptiness within. Inside, Keisha, a woman in her mid-30s, sat by the window, staring at the fading sunlight. Her hazel eyes, once full of dreams, now carried the weight of loneliness. Her coiffure, long, wavy brown hair, fell over her shoulders, framing a face that had forgotten how to smile. Her zipper, cream-colored blouse and flowing navy skirt, were neat, but they couldn't hide the tiredness in her posture. The home was beautifully furnished, polished floors, lavish curtains, expensive decor, but none of it brought warmth. The house was a prison, and Elena was its prisoner. Her husband, Kelvin Chiu, was a successful businessman, but his heart had grown distant. He barely spoke to her, barely acknowledged her presence. The days turned into months, and the months into years, filled with nothing but silence and cold indifference. Every morning he left without a word. Every evening he returned home, buried in work, his face never lifting to meet hers. He treated their marriage like a contract, something to uphold in public but meaningless behind closed doors. Keisha had tried. She had prayed, she had begged, she had hoped. But with each passing year, the walls between them grew thicker. One evening, as the house lay in its usual silence, Keisha fell to her knees. Her hands clutched her chest as sits. Tears spilled down her cheeks, her body trembling from the weight of her pain. She had prayed before, countless times, but this time felt different. Her soft lips, now cracked from years of unspoken words, whispered a final plea. God, I can't do this anymore. If you hear me, if you see me, show me a way out. The room remained quiet. No thunder, no shaking, no voice from heaven. But deep in her heart, something shifted. A peace settled over her, one she hadn't felt in years. It was as if God himself had wrapped her in an invisible embrace, whispering to her soul, "Wait and see." Keisha wiped her tears, exhaling deeply. She didn't know what would happen next, but for the first time in a long time, she believed that change was coming. The next morning, something felt different. Kelvin, who usually left without a word, paused at the doorway. For the first time in years, his gaze lingered on Keisha. She turned to him, expecting the usual cold indifference, but his eyes looked tired, weary even, as if something had been pressing on his heart, just as something had shifted in hers. That night, instead of retreating to his office, Kelvin sat across from her at the dinner table. The silence between them remained, but it was no longer suffocating. Day by day,